let's welcome the debaters.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to introduce the government team in support of the motion, and we have, I have it written up there actually. So we have the team from Kyushu University English Speaking Society. Please stand up, take a bow. So this gentleman, Tsubasa Akatsuka, yes, Tsubasa Akatsuka is the Prime Minister. He will be speaking first in this debate. His job is to tell you why this is an important issue, why you should care, and then why you should support the motion and give foreign workers the right to vote. He should give you a clear picture of what his team wants to accomplish in this debate.
Hello everyone. Today I'd like you to show the deepest gratitude for participating in today's friendship debate, and I also would like you to enjoy today's debate from bottom to the heart. Yes, thank you very much.
Here, here. Here. Okay, thank you. Please enough. Right, so in their opposition is the team from Ewha University, the Debate Association of Ewha. My students, please take a bow.
Hi.
All right, speaking second in this debate will be the leader of the opposition. So her job is to answer the arguments brought up by Mr. Akatsuka in this debate, and then also to present the vision of the opposition team, why they think this is a bad idea if we pass this motion. So this is Gang Jisoo, or Jisoo Gang, and I'd like to have you say a few words if you don't mind.
Thank you. Okay, this is my first time in Fukuoka and second time in Japan because I was first in Tokyo. And I also want to thank all of you for coming here. And also I thank you very much for the invitation, and I will do my best to make this clear. Thank you.
Okay, speaking third in the debate, but second for his team, we have Kota Jodoi from the ESS. So this is what makes it a debate. The discussion's not finished after each person gives an opinion. It goes on. This is also what makes debate sort of especially wonderful, because if these guys are really doing their job, they're paying attention to each other, they're listening to each other. They're not just giving two different views, they're actually trying to make connections and trying to explain things. So Mr. Jodoi's job is then to refute arguments made by the leader of opposition, continue his case, and also continue in your minds, remind you of why his team should win. And so, Mr. Jodoi, a few comments.
This is the day I've been waiting for 2 months or 3 months. And thanks to the four debaters and one professor from Ewha University, Jisok and Hyuchun and Yuju and Casper and Peter Kipp. And I also thank to Professor Inoue to inviting them and giving us a great and precious opportunity to debate today. And of course, I thank ladies and gentlemen here, all of you, to enjoy this debate. So let's enjoy today's debate together. Thank you very much.
All right, and then the fourth speaker, the final constructive speech, will be given by Hyo-chun Kim, also from the Debate Association of Ewha. Her job then is to continue the debate for opposition, to answer arguments brought up by the government team, to remind you of why their vision should defeat this team's vision in this debate. So a few comments.
Okay, first of all, thank you for coming and thank you for inviting us. It has been a wonderful experience to look around Fukuoka. I'll do my best to make this debate clear and interesting, so please enjoy. Yes.
Here. Okay, and then at this point, we have two final wrap-up speeches because these first four speakers may be so excited about giving their arguments that they don't have time to really summarize or really make a final appeal. So the first speaker on each team gets to give one more short speech. Opposition team goes first by tradition. I'm not sure how that tradition started. It seems a little strange, but anyway, it's going this way, this way, this way, this way, and then for some reason this way again. So Ms. Gang will give a final appeal to you to try and win your hearts and minds to the side of the opposition. And then following that, Mr. Akatsuka will give the very final speech in the debate and once more give government a chance to try and win your vote in the debate. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second annual International Friendship Debate sponsored by the Kyushu University English-Speaking Society. As Speaker of this House, I am proud to welcome both teams. In government, we have Kyushu University ESS. In opposition, we have the Debate Association of Ewha. The motion under discussion is this House would give foreign workers in Korea and Japan the right to vote. As that motion stands in his name, we call the Prime Minister to open this debate.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, and all of you here and audiences. So I'd like to show your deepest gratitude to participation here, and it is a great honor to stand before all of you today, and it is also a great honor to stand here on the government side on this motion, and we, the government side, are very honored to give the voting right to those foreign workers in Korea and Japan. Yes. So first of all, there is, now under the status quo, now in the current world, the globalization, we are living in a world of globalization, and when we look around, when we live in a city where we live, we meet a lot of foreigners and foreign workers. We can see that all foreign workers are actually contributing to Japan and Japanese society. But now under the status quo, because they don't have the voting right, those foreign workers doesn't have the voting right. Because of that, those people doesn't have any access to the politics. So although they are contributing to Japan, they doesn't have means to protect express their idea, and because of that, they are treated badly in the workplace. They doesn't have any access to improvement, so they are suffering. And now under the status quo. So in order to save them, and in order to guarantee their future, and guarantee that they can express what they think and what they hope for politics for their future, we are honored to give the voting right to foreign workers. So that's why we propose this motion here today. So first of all, let me define this motion. So the first, we have two definitions. There is the first one, that we will give the voting right to legal workers. And the legal workers is the workers that have a visa when they get into the country. And the second one, the second definition is the local, there is the election, the election that we apply the voting right to is the local election. That is all for our definition. So, in our speech, I'd like to explain the process to realize our goal and the process of improving the situation by giving the voting right.
Sir?
Sorry, later. And the second argument from our side is why this plan, that is to giving voting right, is justified, and that is our second thing I will explain. Yes. So my honorable partner Kota will explain the practical benefit after taking this plan. So yes, so I'd like to move on to our arguments. The first one is the process. That is the process to realize our goal. That is to change the environment of the workplace and guarantee the voting rights for the foreign workers. And after that, the foreign workers can express their idea, what they want for the politics and reflect it in the politics. How it should work. From now on, I'll explain. Yes. So now we, at the government side, we would like to give the voting right to foreign workers, and this means that by giving the voting right, those people, of course, they can go to the election, local election, and they choose the candidate or the policy, political party, and then they can reflect what they think to the actual politics, and then if they are treated badly in the workplace, they can reflect and improve the situation for them. Yes, I thank you.
Actually, because of the crazily high standard of visa, a lot of foreign workers are temporary workers who doesn't have visa. So how this policy can actually help them?
About the temporary worker, let me analyze the labor itself. So that, of course, there are legal workers and non-legal workers. Of course, we don't give the illegal workers. There is a principle, and we will give the legal workers, and the legal workers, of course, including long-term workers and not long-term workers. That is temporary workers. Yes. So then we will give both those workers, and both those workers are protected under the name of the voting rights. So that's why we can save both temporary workers, because temporary workers often tend to be treated badly by the boss or by the workplace. But after taking this plans, they can get the voting right, and they can access to the politics. And what is important, they can express what they truly want to be realized and decide themselves. That is an important thing. But now under the status quo, they can't decide by themselves because of the lacking of the voting rights. That's why we will have to give the voting rights. And this has enough meaning, because those foreign workers have enough power to unify each other. They can create unity from those within those foreign workers. So that's why they can actually reflect what their voices and politics. And the second argument, there is a contribution to the Japanese society, and why this plan is justified. So as I told you just before, that those foreign workers are actually working in Japan or in Korea. It is clear, and they are of course paying taxes to the nation, to the government. So it means that those foreign workers are actually contributing to its whole society and the whole nation. So that's why, but now the status quo, because they doesn't guarantee the right to vote, they are not get return from the government. So that's why we have to change this situation, and we have to make benefit for those foreign workers. So that's why we are very proud to propose. Thank you all very much for listening. Yes.
The Prime Minister spoke for 7 minutes, 21 seconds. We thank you very much for your speech, Mr. Prime Minister. And we call the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, hearing the government side, what the opposition like to say in the first place is that they fail to distinguish the difference between the domestic citizens and the foreign workers. And we believe that it is perfectly necessary and justifiable to distinguish the difference between the foreign workers and the domestic citizens. Why? On our opposition side, we would like to say that foreign workers are the guests of a nation. Why? Because we see that they have a right to choose a job that they want, and they have a right to choose which country that they want to go. But when they come and when they select the job that they need, and we see that they're not the case. And secondly, what we like to say in the context of the current status quo is that the status of getting the visa is extremely high. The test that they need to pass in order to get a visa is extremely difficult. For example, there's a news that in Japan, there's a lot of Filipinos who wants to be like a nurse and pass the nurse in Japan. However, out of 500 candidates, only 3 of them has passed. And we think that this, in the current status quo, getting a visa is extremely difficult. And why is a visa very important? We see this is actually the official documentation by the government, which actually ensures the legal protection. And we see that actually ensuring this enhancement of visa is actually necessary and more efficient than the right of guaranteeing the right to vote to citizens, and we will prove that in our constructive. So, having said to that, I'd like to first give the refutations for the government side. Okay, they said that they need to empower these foreign workers and they need to empower the unity. And they said, even though what they were saying is that even though they contribute to the society, they're treated really badly. Or our answer to that, our engagement to that, is that we say that guaranteeing a voting right is not effective at all. Why? We have 2 levels of analysis to this. Okay, firstly, we say the number of foreign workers is smaller than number of people of the domestic citizens. So, as a politician, they have less incentive to consider these foreign workers over domestic citizens. Like for example, there's 10 foreign workers and there's thousands of domestic citizens. Which one would you prefer as a politician, right? And also the democracy and also the voting system actually runs by how much votes that you get. There's one candidate who gets thousands of votes, and there's another candidate who gets 2 votes. Though number one, the candidate A wins. So naturally we can assume that actually politicians have less incentive to consider these foreign workers' conditions in their cases. And second level analysis. Why? Because we see that guaranteed voting right is not effective. Why? Because we see that it takes longer time. For example, in order for a small foreign workers to want to improve the working conditions, what they first need to do is that they need to wait for the elections, right? They need to see the candidates and they need to go to the booth and they need to pick the candidates, and they need to wait for the policies to come, and they need to wait for the council meetings, and it takes a long and longer time. So we said it is not effective at all. And on the contrary, and what the opposition like to propose to you in the first place is guaranteeing the visa, right? We see that guaranteeing the visa or making it more efficient is a more direct way and fast way to guaranteeing in this case. So we have 3 constructive arguments. First argument will be the right to vote is only for citizens. And second argument will be what is the right way to deal with foreign workers. And last argument will be the further benefits. Okay, moving on to our first argument, the right to vote. We see that this right to vote is exclusively for citizens. Why? We say that this is a right to vote actually is their own right to shape or form their own characteristics of democracy. So level 1 analysis. We say that voting actually determines the characteristic of politics. So what they see is that if they select a person, they need to actually bear the consequences, longer consequences, right? So we see that this is actually very influential, and this is voting. So we see that voting right cannot be sacrificed to a guest, like I mentioned to you before. And level 2 analysis, we see that foreign workers, there's a characteristically different point of view than domestic citizens. Why? Because we see that their motivation is very different. Like the foreign workers, they stay shorter than domestic citizens. And secondly, they are coming to Japan not because they just love Japan and just adore Japanese people. They want to come here because their salary, the salary that the Japan offers, for example, a job like nurse, is much higher. So when they earn money in Japan, they send the money back to their home country. So we say that the characteristic is very different, and we should consider foreign workers like a guest. So what we like to see is the foreign workers, they have a right to choose their own job. They have a right to choose whichever city they want to live in. Yes, we concede to the fact. However, we see that they don't have the right to manipulate citizens' future by influencing elections choices. So we see that this is not right in the first place. And that leads to my second argument, which is the right way to deal with foreign workers. Okay, number 1, we see that giving voting right will not help these foreign workers. Why? Like I told you before, the number of people who are foreign workers is smaller than domestic citizens. So like I told you before, like candidates and politicians, they naturally have less incentive to consider them. So we see that that is not the case. So I told you also to mention to you before, this is a very indirect way of saying this because it takes longer time for actually implement a policy that will actually benefit the foreign workers. At level 2's analysis, why visa will work, which is our alternative. We said that both sides has conceded that we need foreign workers in our nation because like not everyone, like for example, like with a person with college diploma will not like go and like work as a like person who like picks up trash. So we see like the 3D industries and all the other industries, we absolutely need for the like sake of globalization, we also need foreign workers. So we see that there's a real absolute mandate to actually protect these foreign workers. So we see that the visa, like I told you before, is actually official documentation by the government saying that you have a legal protection when your boss is trying to abuse you or something like that. So we say it's a very direct way and very ensure way to actually ensure the legal protection. So whatever I told you today, I have told you that foreign workers should be distinguished from domestic citizens. And also I have told you before, right to vote is exclusive right just for citizens. And also we see that in voting right, guaranteeing the voting right is not the most efficient way to actually help these foreign workers. So for all the reasons, we are very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Okay, the Leader of Opposition spoke for 7 minutes and 17 seconds. And we thank you very much for your speech, Madam Opposition Leader. We now call the Member of Government.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and hello, ladies and gentlemen in this house today. I'm very honored to stand here as a member of opposition. The opposition's argument says that the foreign workers are minority. So even if we gave the voting right, it won't work in the future. However, we revert in this point in my refutation. It is not true, completely not true. Even their minority, it will work after taking this proposal. I'll explain in this point in my refutation. And they also said the visa and the visa to the foreign worker more easier to get the visa is enough to improve the situation of foreign workers. However, it is not true because the problem is not whether to have the visa or not, but the problem is the law or problem is the rule of this certain community. So the only way to improve the foreign workers' condition is to change the rule. We believe this way is to give the right to vote for foreign workers. So we strongly support the government side. First of all, I make a brief refutation for the previous speaker. And Jisok said, explained about the example of the 10 foreign workers and 1,000 domestic people. In this situation, even if we give the foreign workers the right to vote, it won't work in the future because they are minority. It is a principle of the democracy. However, it is not true. Even if they are a minority, if they have the voice in the society, in the politics, politicians will care because under the status quo, there is no voice in the politics. After taking this term, they can say something in the politics. They can reflect in the politics. So the policy will be reflected by the foreign workers' voice. So the history proves these things. For the past, the women's condition was very bad. But in the status quo, the many women continue to instead to improve the women's rights. So in the status quo, the many women has a very good right in this society. I think it is the same for the foreign worker. It is the time to change the situation of foreign worker to improve our society in the future. And the second reverter is they said the foreign worker is just stay here to get the salary from the company. So So even if we give them the right to vote, it doesn't work because they will vote without the deep thinking in the election. However, it's not also true because the foreign worker live in a certain community, and the election decide the rule or the choose the politician, and the politician decides the rule. So the election is the only way to change the rule of this certain community. So foreign worker will think deeply about how to change and which candidate will improve our condition. So they will think deeply and after that vote. I think there is no difference between the foreign worker and the Japanese people living in this community. So this is the refutation. Rest refutation is they said the foreign worker and domestic people is different because foreign worker is just a guest because they can have a choose to move this community. However, even the domestic people can choose to move of the certain community. So their unique problem doesn't true because foreign worker can move this community, or the domestic people can move this community. So the condition is the same. We should treat domestic people and foreign people in the same condition. So in this context, we believe the foreign workers' vote is the efficient and beneficial for foreign people. And in my argument, I will explain this voting right is also beneficial for Japanese people, Japanese economy, and the social order in the certain community. Okay, I have two arguments. The first argument is it is beneficial for social order, and the second, it is beneficial for the Japanese economy. First, I'll explain about the social order. So what exactly do I mean? The social order, in the status quo, there are a lot of illegal foreign workers in our society. The illegal foreign worker do not want to be a legal foreign worker. That's simply because they know even if the illegal foreign worker change to the legal foreign worker, they won't get some benefit from the government. But after taking this plan, the government can show if the illegal foreign worker can become a legal foreign worker, they can give a vote, right to vote, and they can say something to the politics. They can reflect their voice to the policy. So this is a good incentive for a legal foreign worker to be a legal foreign worker. After taking this proposal, there are less illegal foreign worker, more foreign worker. So the social order of this certain community will improve after taking this proposal. And the second point is the economy. I have two levels. The first level is the harder to be an official worker in some company will be it's more easier for foreign worker because in the status quo it is more difficult or almost impossible for foreign worker to get a job in a company in a Japanese company. However, after taking this proposal, the bar will down because after taking this problem, the foreign worker can reflect their voices in the politics. So the situation will improve as I explained. The more and more legal worker can work in some company. So in this situation, they can work in the Japanese company and they can make this sound industry expand this industry. So they can create more employment for Japanese people. So this is important because more and more Japanese people can get the job in this certain community. It is a win-win situation for foreign worker and the Japanese worker and the Japanese economy itself. Because foreign worker can get a job in the society and Japanese people can get a job in the society and the Japanese company can expand their some industry. So I think it is beneficial for all of these people. I believe this proposal is beneficial for a lot of people. So we are very, very proud to propose this problem. Thank you very much.
The member of government spoke for 7 minutes and 22 seconds. We thank him very much for his speech. And we call the member of opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. are quite confused, right? So let me clarify what happened in this debate first. So in the government side, what government side said? They said that there's problem in the reality, right? What is the problem? There are a lot of foreign workers in Japan and Korea, right? However, they don't have voting right, right? So what they're saying is, because they don't have voting right, they are discriminated, they are abused, right? So the opposition side had like two questions to their side. Firstly, we asked, do they deserve voting right? Is it right to give them voting right? And we said no. Why? Because they're guests, because they leave soon, right? However, in the election, we choose our future, we choose long-term future, what will happen to our society. So we say that it is wrong to let the foreign workers, like guests who will leave soon, to decide our future and our children's future, right? However, we couldn't find any response to that kind of questions. And secondly, like they asked about like how foreign workers are abused and discriminated, right? So we had a response to this. Yes, we agree that some foreign workers are discriminated. Why? But that's not because they're foreign workers, but because lots of them are temporary workers who doesn't have visa and who doesn't have legal protection. Let me clarify these points. Okay, in the status quo, in the reality, there are two types of foreign workers. First one, they have visa. They are like long-term legitimate workers like Professor Peter. We believe that Peter is not abused by Ewha Women's University. They are happy. However, on the other hand, there are a lot of foreign workers who doesn't have visa. Why? Because the standard of giving visa is too high. Like for example, in case of nurse, like only five people out of 500 applicants who actually get the visa for being a nurse in Japan, right? So we believe that a lot of foreign workers who they don't have visa, they don't have legal protection, right? So they can't they don't have legal protection. So they are either temporary workers or they are like illegal workers working in the Japanese or Korean society. So we believe that they are the people who get abused. But the thing is, the voting right they are giving voting rights not to those abused people, but to the legal foreign workers who have visa, like Peter, right? We believe that because we don't think giving voting right to people like Peter doesn't really help people who are abused, like working in 3D factories or things like that, right? So having said that, now let me move on to rebuttal, and I will rebut why their arguments are not true. And then I will move on to my clashes and explain what kind of arguments were brought up in this debate and why we still want this debate. So from rebuttal number one, we want to ask, will giving visa will be enough to protect foreign workers, right? They said that only when we give voting rights, we can protect their political right. We say that's not true. We believe that in Japan and Korea, Japan and Korea is a good country, right? We have nice law. We have law that can protect people who work in our country. But the problem is, as I mentioned before, a lot of foreign workers, they don't have visa. They can't actually, they don't have visa. They're temporary workers. So even though they are fired, even though they are abused, they cannot go to police station and say, that boss actually abused me, right? Because they're temporary workers and because they are illegal workers. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to give, expand the visa. We're trying to give as many people the visa and legal protection so they can actually come to the police station and report to the police when they have a problem. No, thank you. Yeah. And secondly, they said voting will be effective, right? Voting will be effective way to protect foreign workers. And they gave us examples of how women's rights increased when we get voting right. We believe that that example is not right. Why? Because when you see in the status quo, half of us are women, right? So when the women get voting rights, we can actually change something. But the thing is, those illegal workers, there are not many those foreign workers, there are not many foreign workers in our society. Especially there's not many foreign workers with visas. So although they have voting rights, they cannot change anything to reflect their voice in the policies, right? And also because there's so small number of foreign workers who can vote, politicians has no interest to take care of them and to actually make new policy for them. So that was the reason we said, even if we give voting right to the foreign workers, we cannot really make change that can benefit those workers. So having said that, now let me move on to my clashes and explain why we win this debate. So first clash was like what kind of right those foreign workers deserve and what kind of right they don't deserve, right? We believe that there's different kinds of rights in our world, in our society. Right to live, right to be educated, right to make free speeches. We believe that those rights are fundamental rights, and we should be protect those rights to everyone, right? However, right to vote is something different. Right to vote is something you have to earn, right? So for example, if you're children, if you're a prisoner, you cannot vote because you didn't fulfill your duty, right? Because you cannot really take responsibility of the consequence of this voting. So right to vote is something that is earned by, that is given to only specific people who fulfill the condition. So who deserve the voting right? We believe that people who has, we believe that because of voting, because the election decide our future, the people who can take responsibility of this long-term effect are the only one who can vote, right? Because the voting, what we decide on voting is our future, is our children's future. Only the people who will stay in Japan and who will bear the consequence has right to vote, right? However, on the other hand, the foreign worker, the fundamental nature of foreign workers is like guests. They leave soon as they get money. They go back to their country, right? So what happens is after they decide, after they vote for anyone, they can just leave the country when they don't like it. Unlike Japanese or Korean people who have to stay there and take care of what they have to take care of the result of elections, right? So because of the reasons, we believe that foreign workers doesn't really deserve the right to vote and decide the future of Japanese and Korean people. And also in terms of effectivity, I already explained that how voting right doesn't really protect the foreign workers and doesn't really change the political influence of those foreign workers. So because of the reasons, we're extremely happy and proud to oppose. Thank you.
The member of opposition spoke for 7 minutes, 19 seconds. We thank her very much for her speech. This concludes constructive speeches in the debate. Remaining are the reply speeches, and we ask the opposition leader to give her team's reply speech.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, to conclude our opposition's case, I'd like to first ask you 3 questions. First question will be, what is election? What does election mean to us as citizens? And second question will be, is voting, guaranteeing voting to foreign worker is the right thing to do? Is it justifiable? And last question will be, is voting, guaranteeing the voting to foreign workers, is the most effective way to protect those foreign workers, such as temporary workers, or who don't get legal protections, just like regular workers who work in the country. Okay, so moving on to my first question. Okay, what is election? On our opposition team, we see election as choosing and shaping the community's choice and community's philosophy of, for example, a nation or a community. So what we say is that we must be very careful on choosing who to vote. So on the current status quo, the country sets age limitations, right? So we cannot vote until we reach over age of 19, or we set certain criteria to who to vote. So in this case, we say that foreign workers are not legitimate to vote for our own country's philosophy or our own country's nature. Why? Because like my deputy has told you before, they are temporary staying and not fulfilling, like my deputy told you before, the duties that need to be fulfilled to earn the right of vote. So we say that we must distinguish the status between the foreign workers and domestic citizens who actually fulfill the role, such as serving the military service for 2 years in Korea. For example, in Korea, they need to serve military service for 2 years, all these kind of duties. But foreign workers, they don't, and they don't have to. So we must distinguish in this case. And second, that leads to my second question, is voting right? So as a result, we see on our opposition team that we must protect the sovereignty, which is actually voting, guaranteeing the right to vote, to actually solely to people who actually feel the duty and who actually are justified to earn the right to actually speak up to their voice. And we see that we must be distinguished to this. And lastly, is voting effective? throughout our speeches, we have told you that guaranteeing the right to vote to foreign workers is not effective because in terms of time, because it takes such a long time to actually get their voices heard. And secondly, it is not feasible because the politicians, by the nature of democracy, by the nature of voting system, will not have enough incentive to actually prioritize these foreign workers over the domestic citizens. Why? Because of the issues of numbers, the number of people who actually reside, who actually have residence in that specific country. So we have told you that actually the right to vote actually exclusively for the citizen because it's own right to shape and form their own characteristic of democracy. So like if the foreign workers are guaranteed the right to vote, they are actually focusing on short-term benefits, not the long-term benefits. So we say that it's actually guaranteed for exclusively for the citizens. And we have told you that is voting effective? We keep saying no because first of all, because of the indirect way of the voting system or the indirect way of actually benefiting the system. And secondly, in the second levels analysis, my deputy has wonderfully mentioned to you why visa is the better effective way. On the government team, they did not give us any engagement comparing the effectiveness between the visa and the voting system. But however, we have told you the visa is actually the official authorization by the government, or actually official documentation, which actually promotes the legal protection for the temporary workers. So we see that the core issue here is that we actually, since both sides has conceded that the best way, it is an urgent issue that we protect these foreign workers, we see that the best way, or the better way, is actually working on the visa. So for all that reason, because of the three questions that has been asked, we proudly oppose to this motion. Thank you.
The reply speech by the Leader of Opposition was 4 minutes and 6 seconds. So thank you very much for your reply speech. To conclude this debate, we invite the Prime Minister back for his reply speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, we see a lot of foreign workers around here and there, and we see that, and we know that those workers are sometimes or very often are treated badly in the workplace, or like overtime working or something like that, and we know that they are very serious situation. Yes, and yes, the opposition side believes that there is the improve those kind of situation is also important, and then they chose the way to expand visa. But please remember, in order to change the visa and in order to change the system of visa, we need the election and we need to change the law. But in order to do this, we need a we have to representative, and we send a representative in the diet. So the first step to provide the first step to guarantee this process is to giving voting rights, and by having voting rights, they get the way to express their own idea. This is the principle of the election as a democratic nation. Yes. So I'd like to refute back to the member of the opposition, Hyun Cheong, briefly. That is the point was that is it right to give those foreign workers, and is it deserved that is deserved or not? Yes. And because those workers are short-term workers, but we believe that there is not the problem here, because point is that now under the status quo, of course there are many legal workers, including long-term workers and short-term workers, but they doesn't have any way to explain and express their ideas into their politics. Actually, that's the problem what we said is that like they doesn't have right to decide themselves and what they want for themselves. They can't decide. So in order to change this problem, that just changing visa is not enough. But we have to change. We have to give the voting rights, and we have to guarantee that they can vote in the election. That is the important thing. What is important here is by getting a chance. By getting a chance is of course getting voting right. That is getting the chance, and by getting the chance to express their ideas, they can actually reflect what the voices to the politics. Yes, so that's why we compare the giving voting right and expanding the base that we are the front of us, both superior. Yes. So the primary, so that's why their argument that is an end. Why I'd like to prove why this way that is giving voting right is the proper way to improve the situation compared to giving expanding visa. Yes. So that there is, I will consider the additional effect there is from to be a benefit to the whole society. That is including the principal level and practical level. Yes, the principal level is of course that after taking this plan, we can get a chance to express ourselves and we can express for our future. At a practical level, we can expand, as my partner said before, we can have more chance for employment, but because after taking this brand, those foreign workers can boost the industry and the Japanese economy. Yes, and also that after taking this brand, illegal workers can be legal workers, and that can be an incentive to legal workers. So for all these benefits, we are superior to the opposition side, and we propose this motion. Thank you all very much for listening.
The reply speakers vote for 4 minutes, 29 seconds. So we thank you very much for your reply speech. And let's give all the debaters another round of applause. Debaters, please cross the floor and shake hands. That concludes our debate on the issue of foreign workers. Should foreign workers be given the right to vote in Korea and Japan? Take a few moments to fill out your ballots, please. We should maybe start talking about the issues after we get a really brief outline of each team's case. We call this a case. If you were in the class, you know that. But so let's take a look at just the basic arguments and the basic stance on each side. Government is proposing to give voting rights to foreign workers. Why? Why? What's their basic reason why? Why give the vote? Just because voting is so good automatically that everyone has to have a vote? No, right? What's the reason?
Contribute Japanese society.
I think that's one of the arguments. That's their second argument, justification, they contribute. But overall, why give them the vote? What's the point?
To give a right to express their opinion.
Okay, right. So, express opinions is like the basis of improvement. So there's a problem now. And expressing opinions, problem now with bad treatment, but expressing their opinion, it's the first step toward improving the problem. And 3 arguments to support that. First, it's directly related to their main point, right? The process of change, how the things will change for the better. Second, why it's justified, why the foreign workers deserve that change. And third, what's their third point?
Also beneficial for Japanese economy and society.
Benefits to Japan and I assume Korea too. It's interesting, it's Japan and Korea, but most of the debate just talked about Japan. That's okay. Benefits Japan and Korea by A and B, right? A is
Social order.
right, social order, less illegal workers. And B? Economic benefits like more talent in jobs, right? More talent for the jobs that they can't get right now. Okay, that's the government team's case. Those are their arguments. How about opposition? What's opposition's basic stance? Yeah.
They are temporary.
Right, they're temporary. That voting should be for people who will be here for a long time. So the foreign workers are just temporary. Not committed to the future. Okay, and there are three arguments. First, it also relates pretty directly, right? What was their first argument?
They're minorities, so they can live with their opinion.
Okay, I think that's more like a rebuttal, or it's maybe related to the second one, like why voting is not the best method. So I'll just put it here. Voting is not the best method to help the foreign workers. Visa changes are better. Okay? The first point is just the difference, right? The difference between citizens and visitors. And then second point was their counter plan, their idea that instead of giving them voting, we should change the visa rules. Okay, right. This is the opposition team's case. Okay. So again, three questions. Who has a clearer vision of what they want, what will happen? Who has more logical set of arguments? Who has some evidence? Who gave better explanations and evidence to back them up? I'd like to call Professor Inoue back to the podium, and he will announce the champion of this year's International Friendship Debate. And after he does that, I brought a few presents to give to the opposition team. I don't know if they won or they lost. Actually, I don't have a prize for the winner. The winner gets lots of applause and glory and honor. And the best speaker gets even more. But anyway, we just brought some presents to give to our opponents in the debate. So I'd like to present them to them and thank them one more time. But first, I think the results you've all been waiting for. So
now the decision. We counted 41 votes, and 15 went to the government, and 26 for the opposition. Congratulations. And the best speaker, that's a closer vote. Two people got 14 and 15. And the best speaker is Kanji Sok, the first speaker, the leader of the And the second best, 14 votes went for Kota Jodoi.